It was a treat to discover that the woman with me today has actually decided to plant herself here in Canada. Jodi Kozan, originally from Minnesota, is a Saskatchewanite and becoming a Canadian citizen.
Yes.
What brought you to our wonderful prairies, Jodi?
I met and married my Prince Charming, Tim, back in 1990. And it was on my heart at that time that that would be a temporary journey, that someday I'd move back to the States. And although I gave my life to Jesus Christ back in 1996, it was a slow journey towards that desire to make Canada my home and not convince my husband we need to go back. Since then, I've just grew in my relationship with God and the strength of my home church and community. I've just grown to have a real love for Canada.
Oh, that's so good to hear. Yes. You have a story that in many ways is like too many.
Yeah.
Beautiful girl,
Mm-hmm.
good home,
Yeah.
Desire for significance,
Mm-hmm.
a desire to be desired.
Yeah.
Where did you start to consciously make choices that would lead to a bad end?
Well, although I've had seeds of faith planted in my life since day one, I began to doubt faith, God, or Jesus seemed like a fairy tale character to me. And so then I didn't experience that day-to-day faith by reading the Bible at home with our family at that time. So I chose other ways. Going to school, being a Girl Scout, involved with school activities, I sought out answers in occultic things, horoscopes, the Ouija board, things in my preteen years that little did I know what I was getting myself into. And through that, experienced a lot of fear, a lot of loneliness, going through nightmares and dreams that I couldn't explain or I was too afraid to tell anybody.
So many don't realize that
Yeah.
when you dabble in those things, it's like opening the door and saying
Yes.
to Satan, you can come and play here.
Oh, for sure.
And of course your mind is
and
compromised.
they do
your
say
thinking.
the Ouija board is the #1 doorway to the occult. But I didn't share that with anybody, what I was experiencing. But that fear and that longing to be understood soon fell to boys, and I became very focused on the attention of boys, and that exterior attention was what happens to so many young girls. So I went boyfriend after boyfriend, and into my high school years, I became pregnant.
Very young.
Yeah, very young
15?
age. Yes. And here I am sharing this on live TV, but at that time I couldn't tell anybody what I was going through because I was faced with the decision to have an abortion. And one of the ladies at the clinic, she said, "Don't worry about it, Jodi. It's not a human until it takes its first breath of air. It's okay." And even though I knew that was a lie, I wanted to believe her because I couldn't live with the consequences. And I had that abortion. I didn't tell anybody.
What about your parents?
Didn't tell my parents.
Your parents didn't know?
No. And
Nobody knew.
That darkness was that pit for a teenage girl, any woman who has ever had to face that type of a decision, no matter what spiritual journey you're on. I had a sense that there was a God, and I just said, if there was a God, no way could he forgive me. No way, because I couldn't forgive myself.
Where did that pain take you?
Well,
You were so young.
that whirlwind to cover it up, putting on the masks, staying busy in activities in school. And
Is this where, I don't know if I can access the paper, I don't know if you can remember it all. Is this where all of that really overachieving?
yes.
I mean, it's not just young people that do
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
We can fill our lives with busyness
Oh,
to
for
mask
sure.
all kinds of things we're hiding.
Exactly. And deep down inside, we're all looking for the same things. We're all longing to be loved and secure and significant. And all of that, if we keep looking for those things in the world, we're always going to come up empty.
So you're on the top of all these sports teams, and just the list goes on and on. through your high
Pageants,
school.
modeling, all of that.
Oh, yeah.
married my Canadian husband in 1990, and it wasn't education that wasn't filling me. It wasn't the modeling and the pageants that were filling me. Moving up to a new country, it wasn't my husband that was completing me, that I thought. So God really placed me.
Prince Charming wasn't the
he
fix
wasn't,
you needed.
No.
Wonderful
And
as
I
he is.
certainly was no Cinderella. But God really placed me in a place of loneliness and a time where that busyness can finally settle down and He can meet me where I was at. And through the first pregnancy of my first of three daughters, God really spoke to me and started to bring up these things from my past that I was suppressing, asking questions to neighbors, and God just placed Christians in my workplace, in my neighborhood, and invited me to a mom's ministry at the local church that I attend right now. And after 3 years of sharing some of the issues I was dealing with, assuming I was a Christian because of all of those Christian things that I did, going to church, going to camps. But this woman at this mom's group said, "Jodi, don't you know Jesus? Don't you know Him?" And I said, "I've known about Him all my life." And she said, "Jodi, you need to know Him." And so that night, went to bed and held my Bible to my chest like I did for so many years, thinking perhaps through osmosis that it would sink in.
This will do something to me. I just need to hold it.
Yes. And just, God really spoke to me. You need to make let's talk. So at 4 o'clock in the morning, in January of 96, I just prayed to God openly and honestly and just said, "God, I'm so tired of feeling alone. I'm tired of feeling afraid. Forgive me." That little bit of doubt was there. I said, "If you're real, Jesus, forgive me. Help me to be the woman that you've created me to be."